Hello, Minnie Bell. Looks like you were the first person here. Wow. I'm getting started a little bit early tonight just to check for technical issues. It looks like we still have the issue of my mouth not matching my audible words, but hopefully, when I get a faster internet connection next week, maybe that will solve it. Anyway, I'm hoping so. I don't know. What do you think of these glasses? These glasses might be a little strong. I don't know. My daughter seems to like them, but when I pulled them out of the box and put them on, I thought, oh my gosh, these are pretty strong. Okay, it looks like I am, in fact, live. So that's good. All right. Well, I checked some technical things and it looks pretty good, except for the audio not quite matching my lips as I talk. But it looks like we are good to go. Can you guys hear me? This is an audio test just to find out if people can hear me. Let's see, I'll turn my speakers on here. And I do not hear anything in the speaker, which is a little stressful, a little disturbing. But we'll find out here momentarily. I think we're good though. Let's see. No, we don't want this. Close that. Test, 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 test. I don't know, the volume might be a little low, but I'll have to wait until some people get here to find out. Let's see, I don't hear anything. Test, 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 test. Don't hear anything there. And double check over here in settings. If you find microphone, output. Yeah, I don't know why we don't hear anything right now. We should be hearing something. Oh yeah, there we are. Test, 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 test. Good, good. Okay. All right. We definitely have audio. Okay, I know tonight might be a little difficult getting people here to watch because it is the 70th anniversary of Disneyland. I was there earlier today, and now I'm here, and I know a lot of people are going to come for tonight. I saw tons of people waiting in line to get into the park as I was leaving. I was leaving about 4:15, 4:30, and I know a lot of people that watch YouTube streamers are going to be watching those YouTube streamers tonight. So I don't expect a very large attendance tonight. And if I'm only reading to myself, that's okay too, because then this will be recorded and everybody can watch it at their leisure when they have time to. But it's not yet 7 o'clock. It's a little early. Having a little cup of Joe here, a little half calf. Ah, excellent. Thank you, Minnie Bell. I appreciate that. Thank you. I hope you're doing well this evening. I know you probably had a lot to watch, and I know you're probably a moderator on other channels as well, like Main Street Paul's and stuff. So you've probably been very busy, but we definitely appreciate you, all of us streamers, whether you're moderating or you're just on the channel. We definitely appreciate you. Just know that your participation and service on our live streams make everything run much smoother. And I just like having you in the chat too, interacting with me and others as well. That's what makes it fun. Oh, nice. I know. I used to have a TikTok a long time ago, and then I kind of got rid of it. Deleted it from my phone because they were saying, "Oh, TikTok, it's a pathway for dangerous activity. Hackers can get into your computer through TikTok." So it kind of freaks me out. So I deleted my TikTok. But I don't know. Maybe I'll do TikTok again and Instagram. I'm thinking podcasts, actually. I'm thinking with these readings, especially, that I may start uploading them to a podcast service, but I have to investigate that more. Maybe tomorrow I have to do some research on that, see how that's all done. But yeah, you can say hi to Ace for me. I don't know. I don't know how TikTok really works. So I don't know if you can say hi to anybody. I think you can just watch and make little emoji likes or something. Not quite sure how that works. Parks. You know what? I knew what you meant. I knew you meant parks, even though you said perks. My brain auto corrected that word, and to me, it just read parks. And then when you put parks, I'm like, oh, she wrote perks. But to me, the first time I read it, it was parks because my brain just defaulted to parks because that's where I am. I'm all about the parks. I was such a dummy today. When I got up this morning, I was really tired, and I totally forgot to try to get in the virtual queue for the Magical Life of Walt Disney. But I'll get there. I'll try to do it again on Sunday, and I'll just keep trying to do it until I eventually get in the queue. Anyway, there was tons of people there today, and tons of people are going to be recording that and posting it and commenting on it. So I think it's well covered. I don't think it was super important for me to cover it. Tell Ace hi too. I love that guy. He's such a nice guy. I only met him once in person, but he was super nice. And, we chatted back and forth a little bit online, both on my channel and his channel at different times. All right, Minnie, it could just be you and me, which is perfectly fine. I'm going to read this story anyway, one way or the other, and then it just gets recorded to the channel so people can watch it when they have time. I understand that lots and lots of our subscribers and Ninja Watchers are watching other channels, other streamers tonight at Disneyland because, it's the 70th anniversary. It only happens once. So I totally accept that and support those people that do that because this only happens once. And then the next big anniversary for Disneyland will be the 75th in 5 years. So that'll be 2030. I can't even believe it. 2030. Crazy. All right, I'm going to get started here. Oh, hi, Serene Beach. Good to see you, my friend. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So great to see you. What do you guys think of these glasses? I don't know. I ordered these glasses because when I'm reading, I kind of need these reader glasses because I have astigmatism in one eye. So if I read without any correction, like my actual eyeball gets sore. The next day it feels sore. So I read with glasses, even when I'm on the computer, or working on the computer at all. And I had those other little skinny ones. And I kind of felt like I was, when I'm reading and looking up, I'm kind of looking at the edge of the edge of the frame. So I like oval glasses, but when I got these out of the package from Amazon, I'm like, oh my gosh, these are quite the strong statement. That's okay. You can let me know what you think. If I should keep these glasses or send them back, I will accept your judgment. Okay, so when we left off, Dr. Seward, Dr. Van Helsing, and Jonathan Harker were all plotting and planning to go in and try to attack and to kill Dracula. And they had sent Mina Harker back to, or not Mina Harker, but Mina, their friend Mina, back to her home to stay out of it. They were afraid to have her hurt. Hi, Chelsea Flowers. Chelsea has flowers. Hello, welcome. We're just getting started. I was just going over the last thing that happened in the story. So they're trying to kill all the vampires. Hi, Thea. And they've set their plot and they've set their plan, and they went to bed to get some rest. And now I think today, when we start reading again, it is going to be the execution of their plot to try to kill or to kill Dracula. Okay, I'm going to leave this to Minnie Bell now because I'm going to read, so I won't be looking at the chat and responding. I'm going to leave that to Minnie Bell. She's so good at it. She'll keep good track of you guys and help you out and keep the peace. All right, October 1st, Dr. Seward's diary. It was towards noon when I awakened by the professor walking into my room. He was more jolly and cheerful than usual, and it's quite evident that last night's work has helped to take some of the brooding weight off of his mind. After going over the adventure of the night, he suddenly said, "Your patient interests me much. May it be that with you I visit him this morning, or if that you are too occupied, I can go alone if it may be. It is a new experience to me to find a lunatic who is talking philosophy and reasoning so soundly. I had some work to do which pressed upon me. So I told him that if he would go alone, I would be glad, as then I should not have to keep him waiting. So I called an attendant and gave him the necessary instructions. Before the professor left the room, I cautioned him against getting any false impression from my patient. Remember, the patient is Renfeld. But he answered, I wanted to talk of himself and of his delusion as to the consuming of live things. He said to Madame Mina, as I see in your diary of yesterday, that he had once had such a belief. Why do you smile, friend John? Excuse me, I said, but the answer is here. I laid my hand on the typewritten matter. When our sane and learned lunatic made that very statement of how he used to consume life, his mouth was actually nauseous with the flies and spiders which he had eaten just before Mrs. Harker entered the room. Van Helsing smiled in turn. Good, he said. Your memory is true, friend John. I should have remembered, and yet it is this very obliquity of thought and memory which makes mental disease such a fascinating study. Perhaps I may gain more knowledge out of the folly of this madman than I shall from the teaching of the most wise. Who knows? I went on with my work, and before long was through that in hand. It seemed that the time has been very short indeed, but there was Van Helsing back in the study. Do I interrupt? He asked politely as he stood in the door. Not at all, I answered. Come in. My work is finished and I am free. I can go with you now if you like. It is needless. I have seen him. Well, I fear that he does not appraise me as much. Our interview was short. When I entered the room, he was sitting on a stool in the center, with his elbows on his knees, and his face was the picture of sullen discontent. I spoke with him as cheerfully as I could, and with such a measure of respect as I could assume. He made no reply whatever. Don't you know me? I asked. His answer was not reassuring. I know you well enough. You are the old fool Van Helsing. I wish you would take yourself and your idiotic brain theories somewhere else. Damn all the thick-headed Dutchmen. Not a word more would he say, but sat in his implacable sullenness, as indifferent to me as though I had not been in the room at all. Thus I departed, for this time my chance of much learning from this was so clever a lunatic. So I shall go, if I may, and cheer myself with a few happy words with that sweet soul, Madam Mina. Friend John, it does rejoice me unspeakable that she is no more to be pained, no more to be worried with our terrible things. Though we shall miss her help, it is better so. I agree with you with all my heart. I answered earnestly, for I did not want him to weaken in this matter. Mrs. Harker is better off out of it. Things are quite bad enough for us, all men of the world, and who have been in many tight places in our time. But it is no place for a woman, and if she had remained in touch with the affair, it would have, in time, infallibly, it would have wrecked her. So Van Helsing has gone to confer with Mrs. Harker and Harker. Quincy and Art are all out following up on the clues as to the earth boxes. I shall finish my round of work and we shall meet tonight. Mina Harker's Journal, October 1st. It is strange to me to be kept in the dark as I am today, after Jonathan's full confidence for so many years, to see him manifestingly avoid certain matters, and those most vital of all. This morning I slept late after the fatigues of yesterday, and though Jonathan was late too, he was the earlier. He spoke to me just before he went out, never more sweetly or tenderly, but he never mentioned a word of what happened in the visit to the Count's house, and yet he must have known how terribly anxious I was. Poor dear fellow! I suppose it must have distressed him even more than it did me. They all agreed, and it was best that I should not be drawn further into this awful work, and I acquiesced. But to think that he keeps anything from me, and how I am crying like a silly fool when I know it comes from my husband's great love and from the good wishes of those other strong men. That has done me good. Well, some day Jonathan will tell me all, and lest it should ever be that he should think for a moment that I kept anything from him, I still keep my journal as usual. Then, if he has feared of my trust, I shall show it to him, with every thought of my heart put down for his dear eyes to read. I feel strangely sad and low-spirited today. I suppose it is a reaction from the terrible excitement. Last night, I went to bed when the men had gone, simply because they told me to. I didn't feel sleepy, and I did feel full of devouring anxiety. I kept thinking over everything that has been ever since Jonathan came to see me in London, and it all seems like a horrible tragedy, with fate pressing on relentlessly to some destined end. Everything that one does seems, no matter how right it may be, to bring on the very thing which is the most to be deplored. If I hadn't gone to Whitby, perhaps poor dear Lucy would be with us now. She hadn't taken to visiting the churchyard till I came, and if she hadn't come there in the daytime with me, she wouldn't have walked there in her sleep. And if she hadn't gone there at night and asleep, that monster couldn't have destroyed her as he did. Oh, why did I ever go to Whitby? There now, crying again. I wonder what has come over me today. I must hide it from Jonathan. For if he knew that I had been crying twice in one morning, I, who never cried on my own account, and whom he has never caused to shed a tear, the dear fellow would fret his heart out. I shall put a bold face on, and if I do feel weepy, he shall never see it. I suppose it is one of the lessons that we poor women have to learn. I can't quite remember how I fell asleep last night. I remember hearing the sudden barking of dogs and a lot of queer sounds, like praying on a very tumultuous scale, from Mr. Renfield's room, which is somewhere under this. And then there was silence everywhere, silence so profound that it startled me, and I got up and I looked out the window. All was dark and silent, the black shadows thrown by the moonlight seeming full of a silent mystery of their own. Not a thing seemed to be stirring, but all the grim and fixed as death or fate, that a thin streak of white mist that crept with almost imperceptible slowness across the grass towards the house seemed to have a sentience and a vitality of its own. I think that the digression of my thoughts must have done me good, for when I got back to bed, I found a lethargy creeping over me. I lay a while, but I could not sleep. So I got out and looked out the window again. The mist was spreading, and now was close up to the house, so that I could see it lying thick against the wall, as though it were stealing up the windows. The poor man was more loud than ever, and I thought I could not distinguish a word he said. I could in some way recognize his tones, some passionate entreaty on his part. Then there was a sound of a struggle, and I knew the attendants were dealing with him. I was so frightened that I crept into bed, pulled the clothes over my head, put my fingers in my ears. I was not then a bit sleepy, at least so I thought, but I must have fallen asleep, for except dreams, I do not remember anything until the morning when Jonathan awoke me. I think it took me an effort and a little time to realize where I was, and that it was Jonathan who was bending over me. My dreams were very peculiar, and were almost typical of the way that waking thoughts become merged in or continued in dreams. I thought that I was asleep and waiting for Jonathan to come back. I was very anxious about him, and I was powerless to act. My feet and my hands and my brain were weighted so that nothing could proceed at the usual pace. And so I slept uneasily and thought. Then it began to dawn upon me that the air was heavy and dank and cold. I put back the clothes from my face and found to my surprise that all was dim around. The gaslight, which I had left lit for Jonathan, but turned down, came only like a tiny red spark through the fog, which had evidently grown thicker and poured into the room. Then it occurred to me that I had shut the window before I had come to bed. I would have got out to make certain on that point, but some leaden lethargy seemed to chain my limbs and even my will. I lay still and endured, and was all. I closed my eyes, but I could still see through the eyelids. It was wonderful. What tricks our dreams play on us. How conveniently we can imagine. The mist grew thicker and thicker, and I could see now how it came in, for I could see it like smoke, or with white energy of boiling water pouring in, not through the window, but through the joinings of the door. It got thicker and thicker, till it seemed as if it became concentrated into a sort of pillar of cloud in the room, through the top of which I could see the light of the gas shining like a red eye. Things began to whirl through my brain as the cloudy column was now whirling in the room, and through it all came the scriptural words, a pillar of cloud by day and a fire by night. Was it indeed some such spiritual guidance that was coming to me in my sleep? But the pillar was composed of both the day and the night. Guiding for the fire was the red eye, which at the thought got a new fascination for me till I was looking at the fire divided and seemed to shine on me, though through a fog, like two red eyes, such as Lucy told me of in her momentary mental wanderings, when on the cliff and dying sunlight struck the windows of St. Mary's Church. Suddenly the horror burst upon me that it was thus that Jonathan had seen those awful women growing into reality through the whirling mists of the moonlight. And in my dream, I must have fainted, for all became black darkness. The last conscious effort which imagination was made to show me, a livid white face bending over me out of the mist. I must be careful of such dreams, for they would unseat one's reason if there were too much of them. I would go get Dr. Van Helsing or Dr. Seward to prescribe something for me which would make me sleep, only that I fear to alarm them. Such a dream at present time would become woven into their fears for me. Tonight I shall strive hard to sleep naturally. If I do not, I shall tomorrow night, get them to give me a dose of chloral that cannot hurt me for once, and it will give me a good night's sleep. Last night tired me more than if I had not slept at all. October 7th, 10 p.m. Last night I slept, but I did not dream. I must have slept soundly, for as I was not awakened by Jonathan coming to bed. But the sleep was not refreshing for me, for today I feel terribly weak and spiritless. I spent all yesterday trying to read or lying down dozing. In the afternoon, Mr. Renfield asked if he might see me. Poor man, he was very gentle, and when I came, he kissed my hand and bade God bless me. Some way it affected me much. I am crying when I think of him. This is a new weakness, of which I must be careful. Jonathan would be miserable if he knew that I had been crying. He and the others were out till dinner time, and they all came in tired. I did what I could to brighten them up, and I suppose that the effort did good, for I forgot how tired I was. After dinner, they sent me to bed, and all went off to smoke together, as they said, but I knew that they wanted to tell each other of what had occurred to each during the day. I could see from Jonathan's manner that he had something important to communicate. I was not so sleepy as I should have been, so before I went, I asked Dr. Seward to give me a little opiate of some kind, as I had not slept well the night before. He very kindly made up a sleeping draught, which he gave me, telling me that it would do me no harm, and it was very mild. I have taken it, and I am waiting for sleep, which still keeps me aloof. Sleep is aloof for me. I hope I have not done wrong, for sleep begins to flirt with me. A few fears come that I may have been foolish in this depriving myself of the power of waking. I might want it. Here comes sleep. Good night. Chapter 20, Jonathan Harker's Journal, October 1st, evening. I found Thomas Snelling in his house at Bethnal Green, but unhappily he was not in a condition to remember anything. The very prospect of beer, which my expected coming had opened to him, had proved too much. He had begun too early on his expected debauch. I learned, however, from his wife, who seemed a decent poor soul, that he was only the assistant to Smollett, who, of the two mates, was responsible for the person. So off I drove to Walworth, and found Mr. Joseph Smollett at home and in his shirt sleeves, taking a late tea out with a saucer. He's a decent, intelligent fellow, distinctly a good, reliable type of workman, with a headpiece of his own. He remembered all about the incident of the boxes, and from a wonderful dog's-eared notebook, which he produced from some mysterious receptacle about the seat of his trousers, and which had hieroglyphical entries in thick, half-obliterated pencil, he gave me the destinations of the boxes. There were, he said, 6 in the cartload, which he took from Carfax and left at 197 Chickstand Street, Mile End, Newtown, and another 6 which he deposited at Jamaica Lane, Bermondsey. In then the Count meant to scatter these ghastly refugees of his over London. These places were chosen as first of delivery, so that later he might distribute them more fully. The semantic manner in which this was done made me think that he could not mean to confine himself on two sides of London. He was now fixed on the far east of the northern shore, on the east of the southern shore, and on the south. The north and west were surely never meant to be left out of his diabolical scheme, let alone the city itself. Excuse me. And the very heart of the fashionable London district in the southwest and west. I went back to Smollett and asked him if he could tell us if there were any other boxes that had been taken from Carfax. He replied, "Well, Governor, you've treated me weary and some. I'd given him half a sovereign, and I'll tell you, all I know. I heard a man by the name of Bloxham say 4 nights ago that there are in rounds in the Pincher's Alley, and or he and his mate had a rare dusty job in an old house at Perfect. There ain't a much many such jobs in these air, and I'm thinking that maybe Sam Bloxham could tell you somewhat." I asked if he could tell me where to find him. I told him that if he could get me to the address, it would be worth another half sovereign to him. So he gulped down the rest of his tea and stood up, saying that he was going to begin the search then and there. At the door, he stopped. He stopped and he said, "Look here, governor, there ain't no sense in me keeping you here. I may find Sam soon, or you mightn't. But anyhow, he ain't like to be found and tell you much tonight. Sam is a rare one. When he starts on booze, if you can give me an envelope with a stamp on it, I'll put her address on it. I'll find her out and Sam to be found and post it to ye tonight. But ye better be up arter I'm soon up the morning. Or maybe you won't be catching me for Sam get off main early. Never mind the booze the night before." This was all practical. So one of the children went off with a penny to buy an envelope and a sheet of paper and to keep the change. When she came back, I addressed the envelope and stamped it. And when Smollett had again faithfully promised to post the address when found, I took my way home. We're on the track anyhow. I am tired tonight. I want sleep. Mina is fast asleep and looks a little too pale. Her eyes look as though she had been crying. Poor dear. I have no doubt it frets her to be kept in the dark, and it may make her doubly anxious about me and the others. But it's best as it is. It is better to be disappointed and worried in such a way now than to have her nerve broken. The doctors were quite right to insist on her being kept out of this dreadful business. I must be firm, for on me this particular burden is silence and must the rest. I shall not even ever enter on the subject with her under any circumstances. Indeed, it may not be a hard task, after all, for she herself has become reticent on the subject, and has not spoken of the Count or his doings ever since we told her of our decision. October 2nd, evening. A long and trying and exciting day. By the first post, I got my directed envelope with a dirty scrap of paper enclosed, on which was written, with a carpenter's pencil, in a sprawling hand, "Sam Bloxham, Corkins 4, Potters Court, Bartell Street, Walworth, Arsk for the Depeat." I got the letter in bed and rose without waking Mina. She looked heavy and sleepy and pale and far from well. I was determined not to wake her, but that, when I should return from this new search, I would arrange for her going back to Exeter. I think she would be happier in our house, in her very own home, with her daily tasks to interest her, than in being here amongst us in the ignorance. I only saw Victor Seward for a moment and told him where I was off to, promising to come back and tell the rest as soon as I should have found out anything. I drove to Walworth and found some difficulty. Potter's Court, Mr. Smollett's spelling misled me, as asked for Potter's Court instead of Potter's Court. However, when I had found the court, I had no difficulty in discovering Corcoran's lodgings house. When I asked the man who came to the door for the Depeat, he shook his head and said, "I don't know him. There ain't no such person, I never even heard him. I'm in all me bloomin' days. Don't believe there ain't nobody of that kind livin' 'ere or anywheres." I took out Smollett's letter, and as I read it, it seemed to me that the lesson of the spelling of the name and the court might guide me. What are you? I asked. "I'm the deputy," he answered. I saw at once that I was on the right track. Phonetic spelling had again misled me. A half-crown tip put the deputy's knowledge at my disposal, and I learned that Mr. Bloxam, who had slept off the remains of his beer on the previous night at Corcoran's, had left for work at Poplar at 5 o'clock in the morning. He could not tell me where the place of work was situated, but he had a vague idea that it was some kind of a newfangled warehouse, or warehouse, as they said. And with a slender clue, I had to start for Poplar. It was 12 o'clock before I got any satisfaction or satisfactory hint of such a building, and this got at the coffee shop, where some workmen were having their dinner. One of these suggested that there was being erected across Angel Street a new cold storage building, and as this suited the condition of the newfangled warehouse, I at once drove to it. In an interview with a surly gatekeeper and a surlier foreman, both of whom were appeased with a coin of the realm, put me on the track of the Bloxam. He was sent on at my suggestion that I was willing to pay for his day wages to the foreman for the privilege of asking him a few questions on a private matter. He was smart enough of a fellow, though rough of speech and bearing. When I had promised to pay for this information and had given him in earnest, he told me that he had made 2 journeys between Carfax and the house in Piccadilly, and had taken from this house to the latter 9 great boxes, mean heavy ones, with a horse and a cart hired by him for this purpose. I asked him if he could tell me the number of the house in Piccadilly, to which he replied, "Well, governor, I forgets the number, but it was only a few doors from a big white church or something of the kind. Not long built. It was a dusty old house, too, though nothing to the dustiness of the house we took the bloomin' boxes from." "How did you get into the houses if they were both empty?" "There was an old party that engaged me a waitin' in the house at Purefleet. He helped me to lift the boxes and put them in the dray. Curse me, he was strongest chap I ever struck. An old feller, too, with a white mustache, one that was thin that you would think wouldn't throw a shatter." How this phrase thrilled me, though. Why, he took 'em up his end over the boxes like they was pounds of tea, and me a puffin' and a blowin' afore I could end up my mind anyhow, and I'm no chicken neither. "How did you get into the house at Piccadilly?" I asked. "He was there, too. He must have started off and got there before me. For when I rung of the bell, he come and opened the door hisself and helped me to carry the boxes into the hall." "The whole 9?" I asked. "Yes. There was 5 in the first load, 4 in the second. It was main dry, and I don't well remember how I got home, I interrupted him. Were the boxes left in the hall? Yes, it was a big all, and there was nothing else in it. I made one more attempt to further matters. You didn't have a key? Never used no key nor nothing. The old gent, he just opened the door itself and shut it again when he drove off. I don't remember the last time, but that was the beer. And you can't remember the number of the house? No, sir. But you needn't have no difficulty about that. It was with a stone front and bow on it, and he steps up to the door. I know them steps haven't had to carry the boxes up there with three loafers what come round to earn copper. The agent and the agent's gent give them shillings, and they seen they got so much they wanted more. But he took one of them by the shoulder and was like to throw him in down the steps till he got the lot of them and went away cussing. I thought that with this description I could find the house. So having paid my friend for his information, I started off for Piccadilly. I had gained a new painful experience. The Count could, it was evident, handle the earth boxes himself. If so, time was precious, for now that he had achieved a certain amount of discretion and distribution, he could, by choosing his own time, complete the task unobserved. At Piccadilly Circus, I discharged my cab and walked westward beyond the Junior Constitutional. I came across the house described as I was satisfied that this was next to the lairs arranged by Dracula. The house looked as though it had been long unattended. The windows were encrusted with dust and the shutters were up. All the framework was black with time, and from the iron of the paint had mostly scaled away. It was evident that up to lately there had been large notice board in the front of the balcony. It had, however, been thoroughly torn away, and the uprights which had supported it still remained. Behind the rails of the balcony, I saw there were some loose boards whose raw edges looked white. I would have given a good deal to have been able to see the notice board intact, as it would have perhaps given me some clue as to the ownership of the house. I remembered my experience of the investigation and the purchase of Colfax, and I could not feel that if I could not find the former owner, there might be some means discovered by gaining access to the house. There was at present nothing to be learned from the Piccadilly side, and nothing could be done. So I went round to the back to see if anything could be glanced upon from this quarter. The mews were active, and the Piccadilly houses being mostly in occupation, I asked one or two of the grooms, the helpers whom I saw around, if they could tell me anything about the empty house. One of them said that he heard had lately been taken, but he couldn't say from whom. He told me, however, that up to the very last and lastly, there had been a notice board of for sale, and that perhaps Mitchell and Sons and Candy, the house agents, could tell me something, as he thought he remembered seeing the name of that firm on the board. I did not wish to see them too eager, so I let my informant know of the guest too much. So thanking him in the unusual manner, I strolled away. It was now growing dusk, and the autumn night was closing in, so I did not lose time. Having learned the address of Mitchell, Sons, and Candy from the directory at Berkeley, I was soon at their office in Sackville Street. The gentleman who saw me was particularly suave in manner, but uncommunicative in equal proportion, having once told me that Piccadilly House, which throughout our interview he called a mansion, was sold. He considered my business as concluded when I asked who had purchased it. He opened his eyes and thought for a minute, and his eyes grew wider, and he paused a few seconds more before replying, "It is sold, sir." "Pardon me," I said, with equal politeness, "but I have a special reason for wishing to know who purchased it." Again he paused longer and raised his eyebrows still more. "It is sold, sir," was again his laconic reply. "Surely," I said, "you do not mind letting me know so much?" "But I do mind," he answered. "The affairs of their clients are absolutely safe in the hands of Mitchell, Sons, and Candy." This was manifestly a prig of the first water, and there was no use in arguing with him. I thought I had to meet him on his own ground. So I said, "Your clients, sir, are happy in having so resolute a guardian of their confidence. I am myself a professional man." Here I handed him my card. "In this instance, I am not prompted by curiosity. I act the part of Lord Godalming, who wishes to know something of the property which was, he understood, lately for sale." These words put a different complexion on affairs. He said, "I would like to oblige you, if I could, Mr. Harker, but especially would like to oblige his lordship. We once carried out a small matter of renting some chambers for him when he was the Honorable Arthur Holmwood. If you will let me have his lordship's address, I will consult the house on the subject, and will, in any case, communicate with his lordship by tonight's post. It will be a pleasure if I can go so far as to deviate from our rules, as to give up the required information to his lordship." I wanted to secure a friend and not to make an enemy, so I thanked him, gave him the address of Dr. Seward, and then came away with it. Now it was dark, and I was tired and hungry. I got a cup of tea and an aerated bread from the company and came down Purefleet by the next stream. I found the others at home. Mina was looking tired and pale, but she made a gallant effort to be bright and cheerful. It wrung my heart to think that I had to keep anything from her, and so caused her inquietude. Thank God this will be the last night of her looking on our conferences and feeling the sting of not showing our confidence. It took all my courage to hold to the wise resolution of keeping her out of the grim task. She seemed somehow more reconciled, or else the subject seems to have become repugnant to her. For when any accidental allusion is made, she actually shudders. I am glad we made our resolution in time, as with such feeling as this, our growing knowledge would be torture for her. I could not tell the others of the day's discovery till we were alone. So after dinner, followed by a little music to save appearances, even amongst ourselves, I took Mina from her room and left her to go to bed. The dear girl was more affectionate with me than ever and clung to me as though she would detain me. But there was much to be talked of, and I came away, thank God. The ceasing of telling things has made no difference between us. When I came down again, I found the others all gathered round the fire in the study, and the train had a written diary so far. That simply read it off to them as by the best means of letting them get abreast of my own information when I had finished. Van Helsing said, "This has been a great day's work, friend Jonathan. Doubtless we are stuck on the track and missing boxes. If we find them all in that house, then our work is near the end. But if some be missing, we must search until we have found them all. Then shall we make our final coup, the hunt, and to hunt the wretch, and to his real death." We all sat silent for a while, and all at once Mr. Morris spoke. Say, how are we going to get into that house? We got into the other, answered Lord Godalming quickly. But Art, this is different. We broke house at Carfax, but we had night and a walled park to protect us. It will be a mighty different thing to commit burglary in Piccadilly, either by day or night. I confess I don't see how we're going to get to it and get in unless the agency Duck can find us a key of some sort. Perhaps we shall know when you get there, by his letter in the morning. Lord Godalming's brows contracted, and he stood up and walked about the room. Handing by and by, he stopped and said, turning from one to another of us, Quincy's head is level. This burglary business is getting serious. We got off once all right, but we have now a rare job on hand. Unless we can find the Count's keys in a key basket, as nothing could be well done before morning, and as it would be at least advisable to wait till Lord Godalming should hear from Mitchell's, we decided not to take any active step for breakfast this time. For a good while we sat and we smoked, discussing the matter in its various lights and bearings. I took the opportunity of bringing this diary right to the moment. I am very sleepy, and I shall go to bed. Just a line. Mina sleeps soundly, and breathing is regular. Her forehead is puckered up into little wrinkles, as though she thinks even in her sleep. She is still too pale, but does not look so haggard as she did this morning. Tomorrow will, I hope, mend all of this. She will be herself at home in Exeter. Oh, but I am sleepy. October 1st, Dr. Seward's diary. I am puzzled afresh about Renfield. His moods change so rapidly that I find it difficult to keep touch of them. And as they always mean something more than his own well being, they form a more than interesting study. This morning, when I went to see him after his repulse of Van Helsing, his manner was that of a man commanding destiny. He was, in fact, commanding destiny subjectively. He did not really care for anything or any of the things of the mere earth. He was in the clouds, and he looked on all the weakness and wants of us poor mortals. I thought I would improve his occasion and learn something, so I asked him, what about the flies these times? He smiled on me with quite a superior sort of way, such a smile as would have become the face of Malvolio, as he answered me. The fly, my dear sir, has one striking feature. Its wings are typical of the aerial powers of psychic faculties, and ancients did well when they typified the soul as a butterfly. I thought I would push his analogy to its utmost logically, so I said quickly, Oh, it is the soul you are after now, is it? His madness foiled his reason, and his puzzled look spread over his face as, shaking his head with a decision which had but seldom seen in him, he said, Oh, no, oh, no. I want no souls. Life is all I want. Here, he brightened up. I am pretty indifferent about it at present. Life is all right. I have all I want. You must get a new patient, doctor, if you wish to study zoophagy. This puzzled me a little bit, so I drew him on. Then your command of life, you are a god, I suppose? He smiled with an ineffably benign superiority. Oh no, far be it from me to arrogate to myself the attributes of the deity. I am not even concerned in his especially spiritual doings. If I may state my intellectual position, I am, so far as concerns things, purely terrestrial, somewhat in the position which Enoch occupied spirituality. This was just a poser to me. I could not at the moment recall Enoch's apostaneous. So I had to ask a simple question, though I felt that by so doing I was lowering myself in the eyes of the lunatic. And why with Enoch? Because he walked with God. I could not see the analogy, but didn't like to admit it. So I hacked back to what he had denied. So you don't care about life and you don't want souls? Why not? I put my question quickly and somewhat sternly on the purpose to disconcert him. The effort succeeded, and for an instant he unconsciously relapsed into his old servile manner, bent low before me, and actually fawned upon me as he replied, I don't want any souls. Indeed, I don't. I couldn't use them if I had them. They would be no manner of use to me. I couldn't eat them or. He suddenly stopped, and the old cunning look spread over his face like a wind sweep upon the surface of the water. And, doctor, as to life, what is it after all? When you've got all you require, and you know that you will never want, that is all. I have friends, good friends, like you, Dr. Seward. This was said with a leer of inexpressible cunning. I know that I shall never lack the means of life. I think that through the cloudiness of his insanity, he saw some antagonism in it for me, for he at once fell back on the last reference of such as he a dogged silence. After a short time, I saw that for the present it was useless to speak to him. He was sulky, and so I came away. Later in the day, he sent for me. Ordinarily, I would not have come without special reasons, but just as just at present, I am so interested in him, I would gladly make an effort. Besides, I am glad to have anything to help pass the time. Parker is out, following up on clues, and so are Lord Godalming and Quincy. Van Helsing sits in my study, poring over the record prepared by the Harkers. He seems to think, by accurate knowledge of all the details, he will light upon some clue. He does not wish to be disturbed in the work without cause. I would have taken him with me to see the patient, only I thought that after his last repulse, he might not care to do it again. There was also another reason. Renfield might not speak so freely before a third person as when I were alone with him. I found him sitting out in the middle of the floor on his stool, a pose which generally is indicative of some mental energy on his part. When I came in, he said at once, as though the question had been waiting on his lips, What about souls? It was evident then that my surmise had been correct. Unconscious cerebration was doing its work, even with the lunatic. I determined to have the matter out. What about them yourself? I asked. He did not reply for a moment, but looked around him, up and down, as though he expected to find some inspiration for answer. I don't want any souls, he said in a feeble, apologetic way. The matter seemed preying on his mind, and so I determined to use it. To be, or not to be. Be cruel only to be kind. So I said, You like life, and you want life. Oh, yes, but that's all right. You needn't worry about that. But, I asked, how are we to get life without getting the soul also? This seemed to puzzle him, so I followed it up. A nice time you'll have sometime when you're flying out there with the souls of thousands of flies and spiders and birds and cats, buzzing and tweeting and meowing all around you. You've got their lives, you know. You must put up with their souls. Something seemed to affect him and his imagination, for he put his fingers to his ears and shut his eyes, screwing them tightly, just as a small boy does when his face is being soaped. There was something pathetic in it that touched me. It also gave me a lesson, for it seemed that before me was a child, only a child. Though the features were worn and the stubble on the jaws was white, it was evident that he was undergoing some process of mental disturbance, and knowing how his past moods had interpreted things seemingly foreign to himself, I thought I would enter into his mind as well as I could and go with him. The first step was to restore confidence, so I asked him, speaking pretty loud so that he would hear me through his closed ears, "Would you like some sugar to get your flies round again?" He seemed to wake up all at once and shook his head. With a laugh, he replied, "Not much. Flies are poor things. After all." After a pause, he added, "But I don't want their souls buzzing around me all the same." "Or spiders?" I went on. "Blow spiders. What's the use of spiders? There isn't anything in them to eat or—" He stopped suddenly as he reminded of a forbidden topic. So, I thought to myself, this is the second time he has suddenly stopped at the word drink. What does it mean? Renfield seemed himself aware of having made a lapse, for he hurried on as though to distract my attention from it. "I don't take any stock at all in such matters. Rats and mice and such small deer, as Shakespeare had it, chicken feed of the larder, they might be called. I'm past all that sort of nonsense. You might as well ask a man to eat molecules with a pair of chopsticks as to try to interest me about the lesser carnivoria when I know of what is before me." "I see," I said. "You want big things that you can make your teeth meet in? How would you like to breakfast an elephant?" "What ridiculous nonsense are you talking?" He was getting too wide awake, so I thought I would press him hard. "I wonder," I said reflectively, "what an elephant's soul is like." The effect I desired was obtained, for he at once fell from his high horse and became a child again. "I don't want an elephant's soul, or any soul at all," he said. For a few moments he sat despondently. Suddenly he jumped to his feet with his eyes blazing, all the signs of intense cerebral excitement. "To hell with you and your souls," he shouted. "Why do you plague me about souls? Haven't I got enough to worry and pain and distract me already without thinking of souls?" He looked so hostile that I thought he was in for another homicidal fit, so I blew my whistle. The instant, however, that I did so, he became calm, and he said apologetically, "Forgive me, doctor. Forgive me. I forgot myself. You do not need any help. I am so worried in my mind that I am apt to be irritable. If you only knew the problem I have to face, that I am working out, you would pity me and tolerate and pardon me. Pray do not put me in a straight waistcoat. I want to think, and I cannot think freely when my body is confined. I am, surely you will understand." He evidently had self control. So, when the attendants came, I told them not to mind, and they withdrew. Renfield watched them go. When the door was closed, he said, with considerable dignity and sweetness, "Dr. Seward, you have been very considerate towards me. Believe me that I am very, very grateful to you. I thought it well to leave him in this mood, and so I came away. There is certainly something to ponder over in this man's state. Several points seem to make what the American interviewer calls a story, if one could only get them in proper order. Here they are. Will not mention drinking, fears the thought of being burdened with the soul of anything, has no dread of wanting life in the future, despises the meaner forms of life altogether, though he dreads being haunted by their souls. Logically, all these things point one way. He has assurance of some kind that he will acquire some higher life. He dreads the consequence, the burden of the soul. Then it is human life he looks to. A human life that he looks to. And the assurance? Merciful God, the Count has been to him, and there is some new scheme of terror afoot. Later, I went after my rounds to Van Helsing and told him of my suspicion. He grew very grave, and after thinking the matter over for a while, asked me to take him to Renfield. I did so, and as we came to the door, we heard the lunatic within singing gaily, as he used to do in the time which now seems so long ago. When we entered the room, we saw the amazement that had spread out. He had spread out his sugar as of old. The flies, the lethargic with the autumn, were beginning to buzz into the room. We tried to make him talk on the subject of our previous conversation, but he would not attend. He went on with his singing just as though we had not been present. He had got a scrap of paper and was folding it into a notebook. We had come away as ignorant as we went in. He is a curious case indeed. We must watch him tonight. Okay, my friends, I guess we have not quite gotten to the assault and attempted murder or ending of Dracula's life. They're dragging this out a bit. The next section is quite lengthy, so we will stop here tonight and we will return to Dracula on Monday. Tomorrow night, being Friday, I will return to The Wind in the Willows, and we will see if Mr. Toad, along with Mole and Rat, are able to reacquire Toad Hall as it has become overrun with, what are they, rotes and some other kinds of creatures that are holding the Toad Hall as a sort of hostage residence of their own. So until tomorrow night at 7 p.m., good night, everybody. Thank you for joining me. Love you all. Bye-bye. Very good, Serene Beach. Thank you for that. Okay, I guess I'll keep the glasses.